Revolutionary greetings, comrades. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Ngabuto Nicholas Mapena. Please like this video and please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you so much to those that have subscribed to this YouTube channel. We are trying to get to 10,000 by end of July. We hope you will assist us. Please circulate, and if you watch this video and you are not yet a subscriber, please do subscribe. Thanks also to many comrades and friends and relatives who sent to me birthday messages. It was my birthday on the 3rd of July. Many people did send their messages. I appreciate. Thank you so much. I'm trying to respond to every person who sent me a message. It will take me about 2 to 3 days, if not a week, but I will do my best to respond to every message that was sent to me. We are discussing a difficult subject in this video. We are going to be accused left, right, center, but it's important that we discuss this subject because out there is a perception that there is a war between the South African government and the holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permits, or those that represent holders of the Zimbabwe exemption permits, like ourselves. And we want to state upfront that this is not the case. Because I've been reading comments in a number of platforms, be it on Twitter, comments on when TV stations flight this, or asking questions. When you read comments, you come to the conclusion that there is some kind of war that is ongoing. So this is the issue that we need to speak to. And we want to submit as a fact that Zimbabweans are not fighting the South African government over its decision not to renew the Zimbabwe exemption permit. We need to deal with this as a matter of fact. Yes, there are some that have gone to court. Well, it is their democratic right to go to court. If any citizen feels that the state is not protecting them, they have a right to go to court. So we'll not comment on the court cases that have been, whether it be Helen Suzman Foundation, whether it be by other ZEP holders or representative of ZEP holders. We will not comment on that, other than to say we, as the leadership of the Zimbabwe community in South Africa, took a decision that we will not go to court even if the decision by government goes against what we wish to see happening. We said we will not go to court. We will continue doing what we have been doing to negotiate. And when we negotiate, we understand that a negotiated process brings either of the two outcomes. One, you might actually get granted what you are negotiating for. Secondly, is that you might not be granted what you are seeking or what you are asking for. In this case, we are asking for the extension of the Zimbabwe exemption permits, and the decision by the South African cabinet is that, conditions are no longer the same as they were in 2010 in respect to the South African public, the views of the South African public, because there's been a shift. 12 years ago, we did not have right-wing formations that have been using migration as a key electoral question, as we saw in 2021 local government elections, particularly in Gauteng. So those conditions have changed, and as expected, the ruling party or governing party will respond in the manner in which they've responded so far. Ours in negotiating is to say, yes, we respect the decision of the South African cabinet because South Africa is a sovereign state. It has a right to take decisions that it feels they are necessary at any given time, guided by its own constitution. And as migrants ourselves, and especially from Zimbabwe, will never seek to co-govern with the South African government. So this is why we do not, as we are putting it as a matter of fact, that we are not fighting with the South African government. Ours is to say we respect the decision that was taken, but in our well-considered view, we think there are certain issues that you might have overlooked, that through our submissions, be it individual holders of ZEP or organizations like ourselves that represent ZEP holders, that the South African government and the governing party or even parliament of South Africa might want to look into these submissions and probably have a rethink and probably reverse the decision that was taken. That's what we desire. But again, if this desire or wish is not granted, we'll have to live with it. As I'm saying that ours is to negotiate, not to fight the South African government. If there's a government that we have to fight, it is our own government, the Zimbabwean government, because it has created conditions for us to leave our beautiful country, to be in South Africa, and some Zimbabweans are scattered all over the world. So that's the government that we must fight, because when it campaigned, the last election or previous elections for that matter, it always promises to create jobs which are not being created. So if we need to fight a government, our target is the Zimbabwean government that we must fight. So we should not be fighting, or we are not fighting the South African government. Yes, for someone that is a holder of ZEP, when they hear us saying this, there might be some sense of a feeling that as the leadership were betraying them. No, that's not the case. We need at some point to state the fact as it is, that ours is to appeal to the South African government and its people to say, based on Ubuntu, it is important that Cabinet revisit its decision through the Department of Home Affairs, of course, and possible Parliament to say, what if we reverse the decision? We must understand also that a caring government, like the ANC-led government, will listen to its own voters, to its own members, to South Africans. And it then has to implement or come up with the laws that the South Africans want. But also, a caring government will take it upon itself to say it to its people, to say, we understand your anger, we understand how you feel, but we also think as government that there are certain issues that you did not consider, which we as the leadership have considered. Hence, we need to renew. That's what the government does. It guides the citizens, because the citizens, we might be overwhelmed by emotions because of unemployment which in South Africa is hovering at around 34.5% or thereabout. Lack of service delivery. I was listening to a debate on television, and one participant was now saying load shedding is also part of the problem with load shedding, is that we now have more people in South Africa, migrants. Therefore, this is why we're going through this. So this is what people will be raising in the public. But of course, a caring government will say, yes, we understand your viewpoint, but we do not think it is accurate. So we are saying we should not create in the media, for that matter, a situation where it appears there is a fight between ourselves as Zimbabweans who are migrants in South Africa and the South African government. We want to build this good relationship that we have always had, not only with the government, but with the South Africans. I spend more time with South Africans. Most of my comrades are South Africans. I have relatives who are South African. I've said this in previous videos. We have relatives in Mpumalanga, a whole clan for that matter, who are South African. So there's a strong relationship between us as the people of Zimbabwe and the people of South Africa. But of course, we must accept that we are governed by our laws in our different countries. And the South African government is guided by its own constitution in implementing those laws. So in our desperation in trying to get government of South Africa to renew the permits, we should not forget the good gesture or the good things that this government has done for us migrants, which many governments might not have done. We will remember that it was in May in 2002 that asylum documents were given to migrants from Zimbabwe. Some were fleeing conflict, political conflict. You remember the days of the Green Bombers in Zimbabwe, state-sponsored violence against the opposition, civil society. People came here to South Africa, they acquired these Section 22 documents. Some now have Section 24 documents. And of course, economic migrants. Some who had already been in South Africa. Some that came through took advantage of the asylum document and naturally it flooded the system, which they then used the document for the purposes of working, conducting business, or studying. So you simply go there and present yourself, you'll be given a document, because there were no camps, refugee camps that were created. That was a good gesture by the South African government, and we must be thankful. It later on moved to introduce what was called, or what is still called, the 90 days. The 90 days, as you know, that you get allocated, if you are from the SADC region, 90 days that you have to utilize in South Africa per annum. Once your 90 days is over, you have to wait for the other year for you to start afresh and plan how you spread out your 90 days. But it is a fact that most of us did not spread out the 90 days, but we took advantage and used the 90 days to remain legal in South Africa. You come in January. Once your 90 days is over, you go back to the port of entry. You get your passport stamped for another 90 days. Get stamped 3 or 4 times per annum for you to remain in the Republic. It was not as strict as it will be. So we again thank the South African government for that, that people were able to live under that before the introduction of the special payments, which started as a documentation Zimbabwe project in 2010, then in 2014 Zimbabwe special permit, then in 2017 the Zimbabwe exemption permit, which is now no longer being extended. There are few countries in the world, very, very few, that will give permits to people of low skill. There are very, very few. And South Africa is one of those very few countries. And we must thank South Africa. Even if we wish that the holders of ZEP should remain in South Africa longer than what Cabinet has decided, but we must, as good people, thank the South African government and her people for hosting us. It's a difficult thing, of course. It's a difficult thing. But we must do this as part of Ubuntu. Lady Smith Black Mambas, one of my favorite groups, which I started listening when I was a kid in 1982, and I used to sing some of their songs. We used to form groups, imitate their music, sing in school or in church or in other gatherings. They have this song, Ukubonga kumnandi. Awubonge kuphela nxa kuyikuthi kakuhambi ngendlela wena ofuna ngakhona. Ubonga noma kungawuhambeli kuhle kumele ubonge. So lathi ke kumele sibonge njoba umshiye ngomkhulu namambazo amnyama bathi ukubonga kumnandi. Kumele sibonge ukuthi i-South African government lama South Africans basigcina okweminyaka eminingi sihleli lapha eSouth Africa. So we must be thankful. But as I conclude, I'm saying, and we are saying, we as the leadership, we continue to have these conversations with the South African government and the other stakeholders. As we are saying that in terms of our own analysis, in terms of the submissions that we seek to make, our request is that government should revisit its position. But if it rejects that, there's nothing that we can do. But we need to put those submissions. And we are saying each individual must make a submission. We clarified in the first video. Maybe we're not very clear. Let me then clarify what I said. What I said in the previous video was that there are 178,000 holders of ZEP. And we are told far less have applied, maybe less than 5,000 or 3,000. I heard they were talking about 3,000 waivers. I didn't get to hear the number in the discussion that was happening yesterday, whether over 2,000 have applied for permits. I speak under correction, I'm not very sure, but the numbers are very low. So it means that if you're a holder of a ZEP, you should not say, I do not qualify, while we are saying so based on the requirements, because if you go to the website of VFS and the website of Home Affairs, you look into the requirements of the visas, mainstream visas, against your qualifications or against your own conditions, you will realize that you do not qualify. But I think in the last few days or so, in the public discourse, what we seem to get from the Department of Home Affairs is that we might be making an error to say a person does not qualify. And I think the minister was saying, who said you don't qualify? So we are therefore advising, as we did in the previous video, that you need to submit your application. Let the Department of Home Affairs, as they adjudicate and say you do not qualify, write you formally a letter saying your application for whatever visa you're applying for is being rejected for the following, which means you are not qualifying and therefore you are rejected. So it will be best to say at the end of it all, to say so many people, thousands of holders of ZEP applied for ZEP. I mean, they applied to move to other visas, but they do not qualify. And the department, through the letters, which we might call letters of rejection, if one is going to be rejected, is that the person has been told that they do not qualify for what they've been applying for. The second issue in relation to this was that each applicant or each holder of ZEP received a letter from the Department of Home Affairs. The minister has been talking about this in the last few days, that they wrote to everyone through the emails that they have in the files. They then had to send SMS to the numbers that were given to them in 2017 when people applied. And they think that, then they thought that maybe the person might have lost the email, the person might have lost the cell phone number that they were using. They then bought space in newspapers to put an advert, right, to communicate with the holders of ZEP. And the minister says, again, they thought maybe people no longer buy newspapers as they used to. Some I know go for weeks without reading a newspaper. They only a hard copy newspaper. They only read the news online. So they then put on the website that very letter of the Department of Home Affairs. Now, if you are a recipient of that letter or you are a holder of ZEP, it is important that you then respond to the letter that was sent to you by the Department of Home Affairs. And we said in the previous video, we gave an example to say, if you are working, say, a ShopRite Checkers, as an example, as a packer, and you think you do not qualify, you need to write to say, I, Ngabuto Mabena, ZEP number, I work at ShopRite as a packer or as a cleaner. I've been in South Africa for so many years, looking into the Immigration Act, the requirements in the Immigration Act. I think I do not qualify. Would you be in a position to advise me to say, what should I do based on the work that I'm doing? It's important to do that communication, right? Or you have and I think the minister has been clear that can also apply for a relative visa, as we have advised previously. If you are in a relationship with a South African or someone who's on PR, you are working as a domestic worker but will not qualify, but you have a relative, whether it's your fiance, whatever the case might be, you are in the process of paying lobola, you have not paid lobola, or they've paid lobola, or they are in the process of paying lobola, as your partner, and you apply for a relative visa. So you must state all these things in the way that is in the waiver application. Or you go to VFS, because someone says to me, they went to Rivonia VFS, they were turned back because they were told that the partner is earning far less than what is required, because this person told the applicant to say your partner should earn more than 8,000 rands if they are to qualify. So you have to state to say, look, I'm married to a South African or someone who's on PR, but they are earning less than the 8,000. That is part of your waiver application to say, can the Department of Home Affairs waiver this requirement? So we said we are advising holders of ZEP to have this direct communication with the Department of Home Affairs, as the Minister was explaining, that there must be this dialogue, so that at the end of it all, they will then say 178,000 ZEP holders, or out of the 178,000, so many applied, and this number qualified in terms of the requirements. We rejected so many because we could not waiver the requirements that they were asking us to waiver. And they will state the reasons, and they will state the number of those that submitted waiver applications, but they were rejected. And also, of the 178,000, so many wrote to us saying they are not even sure of what visa to apply for, because these are their qualifications or the jobs that they are doing, or their situation in South Africa. So that's what we encourage holders of ZEP to do. That promotes dialogue between the department, because we need to get to a point where it's the numbers that we speak to, not to be general, because the argument which we have picked in the various media discussions that are ongoing is that there's a mix of numbers. To say you have 14,000 in the last academic year that applied for study permits globally, 25% are Zimbabweans. There are so many people globally that applied for critical skills in South Africa. This percentage are Zimbabweans, and so forth and so forth. And then you have the 178,000 ZEP holders, so many applied. But the impression that it gives, if you do not apply, and if you do not write to the department, is that you have taken a decision either to go back to Zimbabwe, to go overseas, because we know that there are few that some have already left, they've gone overseas. So the department will come to the conclusion to say, look, we did everything possible to communicate, and the people kept quiet. And we think they are no longer in the Republic. They've left, they've gone overseas, or they've gone back to their country of origin, which obviously we know it is not the case. So we must, as I conclude, I've been saying I'm concluding, but as I conclude, and I'm not speaking for the Minister of Home Affairs, but what I picked when I was speaking, or was quoted as said, alleged to have said in the court that I saw, when it is said, the minister said, do not pin your hopes on the Hellman Suzman Foundation court case. What basically meant was that you, the holder of ZEP, communicate with us, right? Do not ask or wait for organized formations, whether they are NGOs or it's us as leadership, to communicate with the Department of Home Affairs on your behalf. But I think the simple message was, we want a ZEP holder to communicate with us. That is the Department of Home Affairs. And this is the advice that we are giving every holder of ZEP, to say, communicate with the Department of Home Affairs either by applying for any visa, applying for a waiver, or by writing. Comrades, I know this video is long, but we thought we needed to clarify these issues. We earlier tried to do a live video. Some might actually have seen that, but because of load shedding, our internet is very weak, so it kept on cutting. So this is why we had to do this pre-recorded video, which we then download later on, which you will be able then to watch. Otherwise, comrades, please write your views in the comment sections. Want to hear from you. If you have any other questions to ask, please do write the questions. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel and circulate to your contacts this video so that many people get to hear what we're saying. And of course, my my comrades, Monica and others, I hope that they will understand what we are doing. Otherwise, comrades, Amal, goodbye.